Welcome to the documentary from the BBC World Service. I am Martin Rippel, and we are in the studio exploring the processes of the world's most creative people with Peruvian singer Lenin Tamayo. Lenin's music is deeply rooted in the indigenous cultures of the Andes, using Andean instruments, melodies, and mythology. He sings part in Spanish and part in Quechua, his mother tongue, and the language that was once the official language of the Inca Empire. But Lenin has also found creative inspiration in a very different musical genre, Korean pop, known as K-pop. Lenin's songs mix indigenous Peruvian tradition with the contemporary beats and dance moves of K-pop. Lenin's first album went viral on social media. He's now seen as the founder of a new genre, Q-pop.
Yo canto en quechua, le llaman Q-pop, quechua pop, así el nombre que le han puesto.
I sing in Quechua, and people call it Q-pop, Quechua pop. That's the name it's been given, and I've embraced this term so as to be able to give it a label, in a way. But personally, I like to think that the music I make is a platform I'm constructing, which lets me embrace my Andean roots with complete freedom without being alienated from globalization, from modernization.
Lenin is now working on his second EP. I'll be following him as he develops a new song, Llaqta, writing it, performing it, and creating the music video.
After chatting on the phone for a couple of weeks, I'm finally going to meet Lenin at his studio. We've made it up north to Lima, to the district of Comas, founded back in the 60s by Andean migrants coming to the capital. As we approach to the door, amidst the street noise, we can already hear music drifting down from the third floor of this house. Lenin.
Hola, Martín, ¿qué tal?
Bien, qué gusto conocerte finalmente.
Te ha recibido uno de los gatos.
Sí.
As I enter the building, I meet one of the studio's many cats proudly guarding the door. Lenin leads me upstairs to his studio on the third floor, where he's working with the music producer and the cat's owner, Sebastián Tineo. It's hot, and with the window open, we can sometimes hear the sounds of street sellers outside. I want to understand more about Lenin's creative influences and how they've shaped his new genre of Quechua pop.
Ahorita la música andina, el sonido andino es el que me dio la vida, ¿no?
So Andean music, the Andean sound, is the sound that gave me life, you know. It's the sound that enabled me to exist as the person I am, that gave me love. And K-pop is the shield that I discovered when I was at school, and that enabled me to give myself that freedom. I think that together they create a very powerful fusion. And K-pop is very rich artistically because it lets you develop concepts not only on a musical level, but also on an audiovisual level with dance, choreography, aesthetics.
Audiovisual, de baile, coreografía, estética.
At the school, Lenin was bullied about his appearance, accent, and cultural heritage. Then he discovered K-pop, the Korean music that has taken the world by storm. He found that it offered a refuge, enabling him to interact with other K-pop fans and find different ways of expressing himself. And in his music now, Lenin seeks to challenge stereotypical narratives around Quechua culture.
I feel that Andean culture has been treated in such a reductive way that it's seen as some sort of vestige, like Machu Picchu, the citadel of the Incas. It's a vestige, you know, what's left of the great Inca Empire, of what was, but what isn't anymore. And people think that Quechua isn't useful on a practical level because it's not spoken by everyone in Peru or everyone in Latin America. And I think those are two incredibly reductive ways of seeing Andean culture. In my earlier song, Kutimuni, I wanted to give Andean culture a depth that was more mystical, but at the same time more alive.
Lenin's second EP is part of a trilogy, with each part based on one of the worlds of Inca religion. Kutimuni, the song he mentions, was part of the first EP, inspired by the world of the dead.
The second part is called Caipacha. Caipacha is the world of the living, the world that we're in now. And so it's about what's happening now, today, in our world.
And the final one will draw on the world of the gods. The trilogy itself will be called Amaru. In Andean tradition, Amaru is a serpent who travels between the three worlds. I asked Lenin how he starts the process of composing a song.
I know what I have to say, and at first I can't find the exact words, I only find the melodies. It's as if the melodies are more sincere. For example, in the song I'm working on at the moment, I want to speak about migration. It's a huge topic. But there's a part of the song where I feel that I want to talk about the experience of leaving. And so the melody that came was... It's a melody that's sad, I am going and I don't want to. And then, to this melody, I put the Quechua. It means literally, in my village it's raining, today I'm leaving, perhaps I'll return.
Lenin's mother grew up in an Andean community. Lenin was born in Lima and was brought up speaking Quechua at home.
There's a real depth and profundity to Quechua. It's very poetic, and at the same time, Quechua has a directness. It's not frightened to tell you things straight.
En esta agenda. También dibujas, por ejemplo, el traje que podrías usar.
Sí, por ejemplo acá, ¿no? Este era para Kutimuni.
To explain his creative process further, Lenin showed me his ideas notebook. It's full of lyrics, drawings, thoughts for music videos, and even costume sketches. I tell him I'm surprised not to see more musical notes in his book.
The melodies are in my mind and in my WhatsApp.
He laughs, explaining that he often sends himself voice notes on WhatsApp, singing ideas for melodies. Today, he tells me he had an idea for a new song at 5 a.m. He plays another one of his recent voice notes, a fragment of lyrics and melody for the song about migration that he mentioned a moment ago. This song is Llaqta, and it specifically describes someone leaving an Andean village to go to a big city. Lenin explains that he originally named this song Capagnan, referring to the road system designed by the Incas, which covered 30,000 kilometers across the Andes. Ultimately, though, he decided to rename the song Llaqta, which means the village in Quechua. Today, he's working with his producer on a section that comes just before the chorus. They've got a first draft and are revising it. At the moment, they are exploring how long to hold a particular note.
O largo.
Yo creo que sería doble largo, ¿no? O sea, Ajá, sería doble largo.
Next, they are discussing the vocal quality of this
Un
section.
poquito más profundo,
Más engolado. Ya.
más engolado.
Llaqta ipini naraura muchan, wasi piruna wanyu mushan.
And a few minutes later, Lenin's trying out different lyrics for a moment where he swaps into Spanish. The options are either The Village Will Live or It Will Never Forget.
Nunca olvidará. O la Llaqta vivirá. La Llaqta vivirá. Mejor sería. La Llaqta vivirá.
In a break, Lenin explains that one of the creative impulses for this song was a demonstration he passed. The protesters were singing a popular Andean folk tune. He found it inspiring and recorded it on his phone.
Este es el parque.
¿Lo que me mostraste hace un rato?
Como una marcha, como protesta. Está protestando.
He then approached folk musician Ronald Flores Ore, who recorded it on the quenilla, a traditional Andean instrument.
¿Trajeron acá?
Y ahora viene, claro, viene.
Lenin and his producer then layered this with a K-pop style beat to form the backing track.
El kick.
The idea of protest is at the heart of this song. The section Lenin's working on now speaks about devastation coming to a village. In my home, my people are dying, he sings. And yet, there is a defiance to it. In the lyric, La Llaqta vivirá, the village will live.
Our history has been very cyclical, sadly. I feel that I have the possibility through my voice to express the feeling of so many people who've lived before me, and that I need to shout it and claim it. And this song has a social message for sure, but with K-pop as a sort of shield, instead of being a destructive protest, it becomes a liberating protest.
As my first session with Lenin in the studio draws to a close, I ask him about the audiences that he imagines hearing this song one day.
When I compose, I imagine an audience made up of lots of different people, but the image of a mother and her son is always there. Perhaps a mother who speaks Quechua and a son who loves K-pop.
Lenin's mother is Yolanda Pinares, a celebrated contemporary Andean folk singer, whom he cites as a huge creative inspiration. I go to meet them both at Yolanda's home.
No te puedes dejar imponer por lo que quieren que tú seas.
You can't let people impose on you what they want you to be. You have to be what you want to be and defend what you are. As you may have realized, I don't have a cross in my house. I don't have a Jesus. I have an altar where I worship. This is my way of life and my way of saying to my son, we belong, and that we have a story to tell, and that we are a vehicle, we are a bridge.
I want to understand more about the Andean musical tradition, and I asked Yolanda and Lenin how they would describe it.
It has a certain quality.
It's melancholy. It's nostalgia. We are always connecting with nature, with the wind, the water, the mountains.
And Andean music is also very human, visceral. It's the stuff of veins, of blood, what's inside you. It's driven by feeling, emotion, message.
To illustrate what they are describing, they spontaneously sing an acoustic version of one of the more Andean-influenced sections of Lenin's song Kutimuni from his first EP.
Hanggang kipurini
Kaintik. Los dos.
kaintik churing kaikiyak wawang nyang nita kanchari.
I asked Yolanda and Lenin how they feel that Lenin's music can contribute to intercultural dialogue.
Through stories. To share information, you first need to move the emotional fibers of the human being, and music lets you do that. With K-pop, you might not understand the words, but it makes you feel something, and that's the same as what I do. The way that I sing, that moves you, and from that emotion, you'll come to understand the meaning behind it.
I want to know what it's like for Lenin to be seen as the initiator of a new genre, Q-pop, Quechua pop.
It makes me happy because I think that the first step is the most difficult, perhaps. Filming a TikTok video was the first step I took.
Quechua Pop. Luego hacemos tendencia.
It makes me happy because I think that in some way I'm emboldening more people to follow what they want to do. But at the same time, it makes me frightened because the world today is very fast. Too fast, perhaps, and I'm frightened that what I'm doing might get misconstrued or twisted. So I've always worked at pace.
Te lo digo en español, en quechua, en inglés, no importa el idioma, al derecho al revés. Tú sabes que no miento, yo digo lo que siento.
This is the documentary from the BBC World Service. I am Martin Rippel, and we are in the studio with Peruvian singer Lenin Tamayo.
Probando, 1, 2, 3, probando.
Since I first met Lenin, he's had some good news. An international tour is now confirmed. He will start in Korea in a few months' time, before touring to several other countries in Asia. And he's keeping those live performance muscles in training when I see him next at a concert in Lima.
Esto es Cupo Quechua Pop.
After the concert, I speak to Lenin backstage. It takes a while because he's busy chatting to fans.
¿Cómo te sientes, Lenin, saliendo del concierto?
Cansado.
I tell Lenin about a fan I spoke to at the concert who doesn't speak Quechua, but whose father does. The fan felt that Lenin's music has given him a way of connecting to his heritage.
Eso es lo más bonito, ¿no? Siempre escucho eso.
That's the most beautiful thing. I'm always hearing this kind of comment, and I think that the language in my music, in my case, is the door. It's a key. It's a key that lets me invite people to know themselves better and to realize that behind the language there's a culture, a worldview, a history, symbolism, and it's part of our construction, our identity as a society.
I'm interested in how he thinks his message will be received on the international stage when he tours later this year.
It's a leap of faith, but my life has also been a leap of faith. My mom decided to have me when she was very young in a high-risk pregnancy. So it was a leap of faith, and she did it. And because of that, I'm alive. So perhaps people won't understand 100% of what I sing, but I think that through the story I carry with me, people will understand in some way.
The next time I meet him, it's a couple of months later. He is again working on the song Llaqta, which tells the story of an Andean migrant forced to leave his village and move to a big city. This time, he's developing ideas for the music video with Yolanda, his director Brian Jacobs, and designer Fatima Carranza. First, Lenin's showing them something. He's edited a reference video of ideas. The song Llaqta plays over the top, and there are clips from other music videos, photos, colors, and textures.
I've created a video board. It's a way of grounding what I'm feeling about the music video so I can translate it, because it's difficult to translate a video that's in your mind to real life.
Y eso genera en ellos un cambio, ¿no? Y ahí se desarrolla la historia, ¿no? Ahí tendría que haber me imagino, una consecución.
I think this song has the most Lenin worldview of any I've done. That's to say, the most personal, because I was born in Lima, but I've also lived in rural areas, so I've always been coming and going. I've always been moving between contrasts, and I've always been met with comments, things that can feel like you're being stigmatized or stereotyped about what it is to be Andean. With Llaqta, I'm trying to translate some of this personal experience. I hope that it'll be a genuine representation of what it is to be Andean in the city, you know? That it creates a message that can be embraced beyond stigma and labels. That it makes people interrogate any assumptions they may previously have held.
I asked the director Brian about the challenges of bringing Llaqta to video.
It's a challenge because the idea is to represent the outskirts of Lima in a way that's quite realistic, but also in a way that's quite K-pop, you know? A lot of K-pop videos will be filmed in a studio or on a location with huge modern buildings. But here, the idea is to represent these spaces on the peripheries of Lima, to find spaces that are really interesting visually, and to film real people too.
At the moment, Lenin, Brian, and Fatima are developing the script, working through ideas frame by frame. But Lenin parks those conversations for now.
For example, the first few verses are more Andean, with more of a feel of protest. Then there's the section before the chorus, which is, let's say, more introspective, interpretative. Then the chorus, which is more K-pop, more classic K-pop. Then the rap in Quechua. It's a mixture of lots of different things, and because of that, it's very challenging.
As I've watched Llaqta evolving across time, I too have been struck by how Lenin's sense of the story he wants to tell filters down to every decision. And in my final meeting with him, I'm going to hear the song performed live for one of the first times ever. Lenin is singing as part of a festival celebrating Korean culture in Peru, organized by the South Korean Embassy. He'll be singing an acoustic version of Llaqta, as he is still finessing the mix for the final song.
Llaqta. Va.
Kahit di ka rin ka, hatong Llaqta pawihin manta. Manangwan yung kachu, munay nimpihamun, manapi pasaruri nampa.
After the concert, Lenin explains to me that the first time he performed Llaqta live was in Cusco, the city which was the capital of the Inca Empire.
Singing it there was like asking permission from the place, from my ancestors. And when I sang it there, I knew that I could bring it to Lima.
For Lenin, Llaqta has come to represent more than a song. It reflects his own struggles and experiences in a society where indigenous culture has so often been marginalized.
Each song has a specific story that's shaped by circumstance. Llaqta grabbed hold of me at a stage when there were lots of things happening behind the scenes. And I clung onto Llaqta. And I'll never forget this song because it accompanied me in a moment when I was questioning myself. I questioned myself a lot. I questioned whether the path I've taken was the right one, if so much effort is really worth it, or if I am forcing things. But listening to this song time and time again, I said, I'm forcing my way through. I'm opening the door. Or there is not even a door, but I want to smash through it. I'm going to smash through the wall so that I can come in. Llaqta for me is a cry, a battle cry for me and for my people. It's a cry of love and freedom.
Often in our conversations over the last few months, Lenin has mentioned Amaru, the mythological figure who travels between different worlds. That's how Lenin feels, moving between Quechua and Spanish, Andean tradition and K-pop, Peru, and very soon, Korea. You've been listening to the documentary from the BBC World Service with me, Martin Rippel. Lenin's words were voiced by Francisco del Solar.